Welcome to sewing class. I'm Annette Julie, and today we're going to be working on Sewing Notebook 2. So here you see some tools that we could use for our notebook. I've got a 2 by 18 inch clear plastic ruler, fabric tape measure, my fabric scissor, writing implement. Pattern weights are optional, and I do need some cord. We also have some muslin fabric and an iron and our ironing board. Let's go ahead and push this all aside, and we're going to get prepared to make our muslin swatches. Sewing Notebook 2 has 5 separate projects: a flat felled seam, a front seam, mock front seam, corded seam, and a corner seam. We're going to be making a total of 11 swatches, and we're going to be taking our muslin and we're going to be ripping it and blocking it and preparing it for sewing. So whenever you start with muslin cloth, the selvage edge you do end up ripping off. We are not using that for sewing. And the top edge, I happen to rip this, but maybe someone cut it before. If it's a cut edge, you want to go down 1 inch, snip on your selvage all the way through, 1/2 inch or 3/4, whatever it takes to get completely through that selvage, and you want to rip all the way very quickly to the other side of the muslin so that your top edge is ripped. You need that ripped edge. Now, the first set of swatches we're making are going to be 7 inches long. We can take our grid ruler, you can take a tape measure, you can measure down your 7 inches and mark it. Then we can go ahead and snip into our selvage edge, and again we're going to rip all the way over to the other side. And this is 7 inches on the length. We're going to want to get rid of this selvage, but not before we've gone ahead and marked some of our muslin. So from the selvage edge, mark over 1 inch. And this is the part we're going to get rid of later. Now, the first set we need of swatches, we need them to be 7 inches long and 4 inches wide, and we need 8 of them. So we're going to measure along the cross grain 4 inches and mark it. 4 inches from our last mark and mark it. And we're going to go the full width of our muslin. Another 4 inches. We need a lot of these for our projects. Okay, let's go ahead and see how many we have so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we'll mark for one last one. That's going to make that 8. Now we're going to go ahead and go back and give ourselves a set of arrows to show the lengthwise grain. And we're also going to go ahead and label what the width and the length is. This one was 4 inches on the width by 7 inches on the length. Arrows and a 4 by 7. Arrows and a 4 by 7. To all of our swatches, so when we cut them off, we are ready to work with them and know what is our lengthwise grain. We are marking our lengthwise grain. That's parallel to our selvage edge. After we go ahead and separate these swatches, then we're going to go ahead and rip some more, but some different widths and lengths. These are ready. I'm going to go ahead and snip down a 1/2 inch. Snip. And now we're going to do all of our snipping. And we do this with our fabric shears. And there we go. We've done all of our snipping. So we've measured, we've marked, we've snipped. Now we're going to rip, and then we're going to block our muslin with the iron and pulling on the fabric. Okay, let's rip off the selvage edge. This piece here, you don't need this for your homework, but you can go ahead and use this to test a stitch. Keep this. Now we're going to rip the rest of our swatches, and we want to rip these quickly. Okay, we have a whole pile of swatches here, and lots of extra threads as well. Now we're going to go ahead, pile these up, get rid of some of the excess threads, don't go too crazy, and we're going to go ahead and iron our swatches. I have water in my iron. I have turned it up to a higher setting because I am working with 100% cotton muslin. Okay, those look good. Let's give these guys a good press. Here's our little markings. So we automatically know that's a 4 by 7. That's all ready. We're going to go ahead and press all the rest of our swatches with heat and steam. Press the edges nice and flat. Some of them are curled back. If you have too many loose threads, just go ahead and pull a few off, make a little tape loop and keep them on the tape. We're almost done with this set. Little curly edge right there. Let me press that flat. Now we have prepared those other than the blocking. Now we're going to rip some of our other swatches. I have this much muslin left. It's not a lot, so I might have to rip some more off of my larger piece. And I need to now prepare 2 7x7s. So let's grab our writing implement. This is already 7 inches on the length. So let's go ahead and go over 7 inches on the cross grain. Now we're going to go ahead and mark these. We're going to put our arrows, and we're going to call these a 7x7. And snip, and snip. Rip off that selvage edge, and separate the 2 7x7 pieces. And we're going to need to press these. Great, now we have our 2 7x7s. We just have a couple more swatches to go ahead and rip for us. And we need a 4.5 by 4.5. So I'm going to go back to my large piece. I'm going to mark down 4.5 inches on the selvage edge. And 4.5 inches across after I marked an inch to rip off because of the selvage edge. Always take that selvage off. Let's snip and snip. I'm going to rip that selvage. And I'm going to rip across and down. One more snip. And there is our 4.5 by 4.5. Let's go ahead and mark it and press it. Here's a little blue line that I snipped and I ripped. That is my lengthwise grain, and this one was 4.5 by 4.5. Great. Now we have all of our swatches all ripped and prepared for us to use for our project. We might still have to use the iron, so keep that on. Now what you want to do right now is grab a piece of paper, preferably 8.5 by 11, some Xerox paper that you know has a perfect little right angle there. Because if you don't have a grid at home, you're going to need this piece of paper. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with our 7x7s. I'm going to pretend I don't have a grid, and we'll start with the paper. You want to be able to take your 7x7 and put it up against the lower edge and have it match with this line going up. It's not making right angles. This is too long through here. The bias has stretched. And it has stretched a lot more towards the selvage edge. That's why we always take that off. Pieces towards the selvage edge look more like this. So we can take this swatch. We already pressed it, but apply a little heat and steam. You know it's too long going across this direction, so pull it the other way. And start in the corner. Pulling diagonally even on both sides at the same place at the same time. Going all the way down to the other point. Great. Now put it back on that piece of paper, lining up that bottom edge. And we can see that's moved over about 1/4 inch. We still want this to be shorter. So we're going to apply heat and steam one more time and block along these edges and shorten the bias, making our, right now, it's looking like a parallelogram. We want it to look like a square. So heat and steam and blocking, adjusting the grains, pulling on the bias in the opposite direction to straighten the grid. Put it back on your piece of paper or your grid. There you see, everything's moved back in shape. That's perfect. So this swatch is now officially blocked. Great, let's take another one. This one I have not blocked. Let's go ahead.